Welcome to the Soulfull Sound Podcast. This podcast is about celebrating the leaders, teachers, and coaches who guide fellow humans to connect, heal, and discover themselves so they can express their gifts into the world. I am Simone Niles, a coach, sound healer, vocalist, and author. Thank you for being here with me today. In this Soulfull Sound conversation, I speak with Chantal Miller, who is the founder of Island Girls Rock. Island Girls Rock was created mainly from love and a burning desire to ensure that Caribbean women were gifted a platform which represented them beyond the expected norm. In addition to building Island Girls Rock, Chantal is also a producer-presenter both on radio and podcasts, a much sought-after voiceover artist, and has intense passion for Caribbean films. She runs digital storytelling workshops for young people and is regularly commissioned to speak on matters related to creative entrepreneurship, wellness, and the power of digital storytelling. Chantal has curated exhibitions and panel discussion series, with the most recent being Back Home, where she collaborated with Gabrielle Smith of The New Black, and Through Our Eyes, a photography-focused week of panel discussions and exhibitions exploring Caribbean representation in mainstream media. In this episode, Chantal opens up about some of the challenges for women of the Caribbean diaspora. She keeps it real about her personal experiences and gives some tips to aspiring creatives. She also talks about some of the big lessons that she learned in business. Have a listen and join in the conversation. I am so excited to welcome a wonderful, beautiful Caribbean woman. Chantal Miller is a creative synergist who is passionate about wellness, representation, and joy, and combining all three elements to curate experience which tells stories of the Caribbean in ways which inspire, uplift, and heal. Oh, I love that. That is amazing. Your work is so dear to my heart. Oh. And I think it is so important that our Caribbean stories are told. And I love that you're sharing it so boldly and positively. So welcome.
Thank you for having me, Simone. I'm excited.
You. Yes.
And I'm nervous. I'm like, I want to be on the other side.
Well, yes, you are often on the other side with your own podcast, yes, which we'll get into. But I'm so glad that you're sitting over there and that, I'm going to ask you some awesome questions.
Cool.
So tell us a little bit about the work you do. What is this, how you're combining these three elements and, curating these experiences. Tell me about your work.
My work. You know what, Simone? I'm just realizing in the last 2 years that my work actually comes from my heart. It literally comes from a heart space. And I'm understanding what that means. Because there's a lot of things that I enjoy. A lot.
Yeah.
But I love the work that I'm doing.
Great.
I love telling stories. When I was growing up, I wanted to be the next Oprah. Hello.
Woohoo.
Yes. And she's an amazing storyteller.
Yes.
And I love her. I love photography. My mom's hobby at the time, and still is actually, photography. And I love how she would tell stories using that medium. I like being happy.
Yes.
And I like seeing my people and my community happy. And I feel that, we are born into trauma and of trauma. We come from a legacy of trauma. And it's great that we're aware of that. It's great that we're at a place where we are accepting of that. But I feel that there needs to be balance in what's provided for us. So it's what I love the work that people are doing, the historical and cultural work. But I feel that joy is an element that needs to be enabled a lot more because it's real.
Yeah.
Joy is real as much as trauma is real. Sorry.
Yeah.
And so that's very important to me as well. I think, there's so many people that I myself personally follow on social media where they're giving me all the facts on Caribbean people and where we come from and who we are. And, I was lucky enough to be schooled in the Caribbean. So I have a very strong understanding of who I am.
Sure.
And I'm very confident in who I am. And maybe there's an element of me that took that for granted as well. So when I moved back to the UK as an adult, just meeting other people of Caribbean heritage and even not of Caribbean heritage. And the limitations that they put on themselves because of the stories that they've been told here from being schooled here. I was like, wow, I'm quite privileged.
Right.
I'm quite privileged, and I didn't recognize that.
Right.
And so I just wanted to bring more of what I know and my experience to the UK through telling the stories of the Caribbean and Caribbean women specifically.
Yeah, storytelling is so powerful. And I know it certainly starts with the stories that we tell ourselves about ourselves. And a lot of these, come through the influences, whether it's culturally or things that we've been told and taught to believe.
Yep.
And definitely ought to question so that we can find that truth and really, as you say, that identity of who we are. There are two things that you said that I'm really interested to dig a little deeper, and that's that legacy of trauma. Can you just delve a little bit deeper into what that is for you?
I'm going to be really blunt.
Please do. Be blunt.
I'm going to be blunt. I'm a Black woman.
Yes.
I'm a Black woman of Caribbean heritage.
Yes.
I am who I am because of trauma and the trauma of slavery and colonization. These were very traumatic events that occurred to my ancestors. And I was born because of that and through that and into that because, I do believe that there's cellular memory that we hold on to things and pass them on from generation to generation. Yeah. So it's almost as if it's generational trauma.
Yes.
So I'm born into that and I'm born carrying that. And it's reinforced through, what people choose to focus on society-wise and in the media and how that's represented. So every day that I leave my house, I said this to my friend the other day, every day that I leave my house, it's almost as if I'm in warfare. There's the microaggressions, and then there's the bigger picture, the institutionalized racism and colorism and all of that. And I'm dealing with that every single day of my life.
Right.
Okay. All right, then. So I have to make sure that I'm up for that and that I'm strengthening myself and protecting myself. But how do I then balance that? What's bringing me joy? And who has been bringing joy into my community, and how can I honor them and celebrate them?
Yes.
And how can I, ensure that the legacy of joy is something that counterbalances the trauma that's, embedded in our DNA. So can we turn that around somehow? I know there must be a scientific way to do this and an explanation, but I do feel that the more we practice something, the more it surrounds us.
Absolutely.
So,
the other point I was going to ask about, you've already touched on, which is, I love that you phrased it, enable joy, because what that suggests to me is that you're saying we have a responsibility to do it. We have a responsibility to turn on the switch as opposed to expecting it to just occur.
Yes.
And I think that is very powerful because it makes us wake up to the fact that we do need to do something and we need to take action.
To be proactive.
And yes, exactly, for things to change. And again, if we're changing the cycle and creating a different cellular vibration, then that is what we pass on to the future generations.
Exactly.
So I think that's beautifully put. And I think that is wonderful. So I'm curious now as to what ignited this vision for you. Was it something specific in your life, or just tell me a bit about
what ignited
how that happened?
I think it was always there, but I just didn't understand what I was supposed to do with it.
Right.
And I didn't understand that it would be useful to other people. I honestly didn't. Okay, so why would this be useful? Why would this information, or why would me, pointing people in the direction of this beautiful exhibition be useful to anyone?
Sure.
Why would it be useful to, have an event that's surrounded in color and light and, uplifting, music and great, nutritious, healing, soothing food? Why is that important? I didn't understand. Why is me recommending a book that made me laugh important?
Yeah.
I didn't get it, but I was just doing it anyway.
Right. Yeah.
I was just doing it.
Yeah.
Because I like to share. I like, if something has impacted my life in a positive way, if something has caused a really wonderful shift for me, then I almost feel responsible to share that with others. I don't want to hold on to it. I feel like, well, okay, it's done this for me. Maybe it can do it for someone else as well.
Paying it forward
So
is
let me just put it out there, and if someone grabs onto it, then great. And if it really brings the joy or the inspiration that it brought to me, good.
Yeah, I think what's nice is, you speak about what you do is really working from your heart, which I love. I think it's so important for us to connect deeper so that we can serve deeper.
Yes.
And it sounds very much like, that you kind of just explained that a bit further to talk about, this is just what I did for myself. This is where I was thriving and coming alive. And these are the things that inspired me. And I think that paying it forward is such a beautiful way to express that into the world, and recognizing by doing so, of course, the amount of people that need it.
Yes.
So thank goodness something kind of triggered you to actually share it on a wider platform.
You said it right there.
Yeah.
Recognizing how many people actually need it.
Yeah.
That blew me away. Like when we had our first Island Girls Rock brunch, like, oh my God, 3 years ago now?
Wow.
And the way that it resonated and the messages we were getting, I think we were all like, oh.
Right. So you need to tell me what Island Girls Rock is. So I have an idea, but I want everyone listening to know more about Island Girls Rock. So what is that? Yes.
Island Girls Rock is a platform that I started 3 years ago. It was meant to be, the event that we had that ignited it was meant to be a one-off.
Right.
And then we were going to continue doing some work, but we thought we'd do it slowly and just ease into it. But Island Girls Rock had other ideas.
Yes.
And kind of ran away with us for the first year quite organically. And it's been maybe the last 2 years that we've kind of formulated an official platform and said, okay, we're Island Girls Rock and we're here to celebrate, support, hold, and enable joy for women of Caribbean heritage.
Beautiful.
And the diaspora and anyone else who wants to come along. So yes, our priority is to uphold and support and to nurture and to be there for women of Caribbean heritage. But that doesn't mean that anyone else isn't welcome.
Yeah.
Of course you are.
Yeah, please come and listen to our stories.
Exactly.
And learn and embrace.
Learn about us and see that we are not a monolith. That there's so many different layers to who we are and to our contributions. So come celebrate with us.
Yes.
It's about us, but celebrate with us. It's cool.
And so this platform, you obviously have the brunch and events, and I also know that you have the podcast. So is that the main kind of way of sharing the information?
It's at first, it was definitely through our events, and we always try to make our events themed and experiential. We don't just want people to come and sit down and be talked at and talked to. We want them to be engaged and doing things. So we've had like filmmakers be the theme, where we screen films by women of Caribbean heritage. And we've been lucky enough to have some of the directors come down and speak about their process and share that. And that's important, because who knows who's sitting in the audience who's thought about picking up a camera and telling a story. Yeah. And so having someone right there speaking to you who has done that, I feel is almost as if it's a switch, like you said earlier, like, I can do this. Yeah. And this is how. Yeah. It's within my grasp, just making things a reality. So we do themed, or we started off doing themed brunches. Now it's turned into a whole day. The wellness one has turned into amazing. A day. And also just one-off workshops throughout the year. The podcast is definitely a major, major way of getting stories out there, speaking to women and from all different walks of life. And we like to think that we're intergenerational. So even though it's Island Girls Rock, I'm 45, but I actually like considering myself a girl. There's a joy that comes with being a girl. There's an openness and a willingness to explore that we tend to lose that a bit as we grow into adulthood. We're a bit more guarded and maybe not quite as open. So I don't mind. Like some people see, I'm a grown woman. I'm not a girl. Well, actually, I'm both. Yes. Yeah, absolutely. I'm both. I'm a grown woman and a girl. Yeah. And I quite love that. And even within itself, Island Girls Rock is an affirmation. So you wake up and you're like, oh, I am an island girl and I actually do rock. Yes. Love that. I so love it. My story is it's interesting because I'm a Caribbean woman. There's no doubt in my mind that I'm a Caribbean woman. Yeah. But I remember, because while I was born in Trinidad and lived there for the first year of my life, I was then in the States for my formative years. Right. Okay. So I didn't come back to Barbados until I was about 7. Right. And I had my primary school and secondary school experience there. So this is where I grew up effectively. But when I returned, there was a culture shock.
And it's the reverse culture shock because I didn't know my parents are Caribbean, so there's no doubt in me that I'm a Caribbean girl. Yes. But coming back to Barbados and going through the primary school system, it took me ages to settle. I found it quite a traumatic experience, primary school.
Right.
And what I find interesting in reflection is like, wow, it was going through this trauma to come back home. Mm-hmm. Come back home to myself, come back home to my heritage, come back home to being born into this culture and being of this culture at the same time. Mm-hmm. So it was really interesting for me to kind of go through that experience. And then now I've been away from the Caribbean for more than half my life.
Oh, gosh.
Because I've been in the UK for over 2 decades now.
Oh, my gosh. Really,
so,
Simone?
I know, 22 years.
Hey,
and so 15 years of my life has been spent in the Caribbean. And so, we take that away and we add this and we add that. And I'm in my 40s too.
Seriously.
So I've been away from Barbados for from the Caribbean, like I said, for more than half my life. But I'm a Caribbean woman.
Absolutely.
So what I'm really interested in, because I know you work a lot in this field, you are staying current with what is Caribbean and everything like that. And it's an interesting question because I know that really we can't be defined. Mm-hmm. However, if you had to give a definition of what a Caribbean woman is, what would that be?
Oh, my goodness. What is a Caribbean woman? That is, for me, there's so many layers to Caribbean women. There's the strength and vulnerability. They're ever evolving. I see us as trees, and we go through these different seasons. Caribbean women, I think, for me, are some of the bravest women that I know, and they don't even realize that. The migration, the constant migration, whether it's short term or long term, when some of us leave home to go and study.
Yeah.
That's a big deal.
Of course.
You've grown up on an island and then you're going off to Canada or the US or UK or Europe or wherever to study. You're being plunked into a completely different world that some people have not been exposed to before. Some have, because we're also very well traveled, which a lot of people don't understand, that just because we're on an island, it doesn't mean that we're completely rooted there all the time.
And
disconnected. Exactly. Like we move around, we travel as well. So there is that. But I find Caribbean women to have an inner, almost, what the French call it is it joie de vivre, almost, but with a whole different stamp on it, because our heritage comes from so many different places on this planet. We have our indigenous people, the Caribs, the Arawaks, the Tainos. And then we have the European colonizers who came over. And then we have the slaves, mainly from West Africa. Mm-hmm. And we're all of these things.
Yeah.
And we formed our own little hybrid almost of humans, and we pull on all these different influences all the time in everything we do. So whether it's our spirituality, our religion, our food, our music, our fashion, and I think there's something so unique about that. I don't think we're washed out, because I've heard that phrase in reference to people of the Caribbean that we're washed out. I'm like, absolutely the opposite. We're the most vibrant people that I know because of all these different influences on who we are. Wow, yeah. So that's what makes us unique. And that's what makes us not a monolith and not the stereotype that mainstream media would have you believe that we're just one thing or the other.
Yeah.
But we're all, I can be whining in a band and then go straight off to NASA, because I'm an astronaut.
Yes.
Whatever. I can do all of those things. And in between, Caribbean women have an innate entrepreneurial spirit. My great-grandmother was an entrepreneur when that term probably didn't even exist or wasn't known to us. She had 6 children to take care of, and she wasn't waiting on any handouts or anyone to do that. And she turned her love for confectionery into a business to look after her 6 children. My great-grandmother every weekend would be in Charlestown with this tray on her head filled with ginger fudge, peppermint, sugar cake, coconut drops, coconut tart,
Yes.
And she learned to make this flaky, buttery pastry from being the maid for a Welsh family.
Yes.
You know, and they taught her how to make this beautiful pastry. Then they returned to Wales and she was like, okay, let me just use this then.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And built her home and acquired land from being an entrepreneur.
That's wonderful.
You know, these are the women that formed us. So, we're pretty special.
We are.
I don't know if that defines us.
So love that. If there is a definition, hands up, I'll agree. I'll take that. That's amazing. So, and I mean, what great examples you've had. And I think I think this is really what's special about your work, is that what you're doing is you're saying, look at all the examples of what is possible. And, you know, showing that the limitations and boundaries only exist if you let them.
Absolutely.
And I think that is pretty powerful.
Absolutely.
Pretty powerful. So, you know, we're both Caribbean women living away from home.
Yes.
So I'm interested and curious because of the work that you do, the people that you've already interviewed yourself on the Island Girls Rock podcast, and just generally from your life experiences. What would you say some of the challenges for women are from the, you know, Caribbean diaspora mostly?
Other people's expectations. People don't expect certain things of us, so tend to place us in a box. And if when we deviate from that, again, it's like, oh, I don't quite know what to do with this or what to do with you or where to place you.
What type of expectations?
I would say a lot of spaces where we're not expected to pop up.
Right.
Especially the wellness space.
Right.
Especially the wellness space. We're not expected to pop up. And we do, because why wouldn't we? We need to take care of ourselves.
Sure.
Just like everyone else.
Of course.
So that in itself is a surprise for me always. You know, we're not expected to pop up, I think, at places that are not typically Caribbean. So if it's not carnival related or it's not jerk chicken related.
Right.
Or roti related, you know.
Oh, roti, well.
Well, you know, but anyway.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, you're here, you're interested in this? Yes, I am. And that can be quite intimidating for anyone. You know, when you're greeted with oh, you're here.
Yeah.
You know, so how do we get around that and through that and continue on with what we're doing, our intentions? And that is just about being confident and building that and letting yourself know that there are no limitations to where I can go, where I can be seen, where I can be heard, how I express myself, you know, where I choose to plant myself. Like if I choose to go and live in Paris, I mean, hopefully Brexit won't mess that up. Yeah. But, you know,
a whole new topic to talk about.
Right? Like, please, you know, if I choose to go and live in Paris or Spain or Italy or wherever, I can do that. Because I'm here on this planet occupying space, and there shouldn't be any restrictions on me based on a region that I'm from.
Sure.
You know? So for me, the challenge is feeling within myself enough, you know, loving myself enough to know that I can go wherever I want. I can do whatever I please, you know, within safety and compassion and respect for other people. And just be me wherever I am. And that is something that I hold within me. You know, I am a Caribbean woman. That is definitely who I am. Yeah. But it's not a restriction.
No.
And it's not something that should be a boundary to anything I want to achieve.
Sure.
If other people have either low or no expectations of me, that's on them. That's not on me. So it's about me understanding who I am and valuing myself enough to know that I deserve all the greatness that everyone else experiences.
Yeah, I think what's important is, you know, you're talking about coming back to self and to take responsibility for your own stuff. I know that one of the things that I feel that my mom or my parents taught me from quite a young age, which I know has been a very conscious thing for me to then pass on to my children, is to know when it's your shit.
Yes.
And when it's not.
Yep.
Take responsibility for your own stuff and then let others take responsibility, or it doesn't matter whether they do or not. It's not your responsibility.
It isn't.
So don't pick it up because it's been put down.
Exactly.
Right. But I'm curious because, I mean, I completely appreciate where you're coming from and what you're talking about in terms of others' expectations. Is this the reality that you've lived personally?
Yeah.
Is that, where you feel like there is this, you know, you walk into a room and they're like, hang on a second.
Yeah. This wasn't the Chantal Miller we're expecting.
This is not right. Okay, cool. Because I, you know, in all honesty, I've moved around a lot, but I haven't personally consciously, you know, have had those experiences. Not a lot of them anyway. Certainly a few, certainly living in the UK, but I'm just curious. But also I recognize that I am an entrepreneur by nature.
Yes.
But having said that, there is something behind the conscious decision to always work for myself. I've worked 11 months of my life for someone else.
How was that for you, Simone?
That was soul sucking. However, it wasn't because of who I worked for. I was really fortunate. I worked at the Barbados High Commission when I was, you know, first here.
Okay.
And they're a lovely bunch of people and it was a beautiful place to work. But that was not it was not on them.
Right.
It was on me. I was around my people anyway, but it was on me because it wasn't what I wanted to do. It was a means to an end. It was a stepping stone in my journey, and I appreciate it for what it is, and I'm grateful for what, you know, for that. But I do know that I've always worked for myself since. I've always managed myself. I've always done what I wanted to do. And I've always chosen to, as you say, rise up. You know, if there are those expectations, they haven't been made known to me in a way that I felt like I needed to defend them. However, I know of many people and stories, and obviously, as you said, you've had that experience yourself, and I know of it more so, unfortunately, where you are entering into someone else's workspace or you're entering into someone else's domain, where for me, I carved my own most of the time.
Yes.
And I'm very grateful and happy to have done that. But equally, I wonder in reflection if it would have been a very different experience had I chosen to go down the route of corporate work or working for others or working for an establishment or things like that. Because for me, like I said, it was a very minor experiences, which I'm very grateful for. That isn't to say that I don't recognize how they that they exist or how people are affected by them, because of course I know stories and I know of people, and I had a few things myself, but I said nothing major, that I can see the changes that need to be made. Would you say that, I mean, this is one of the challenges that you say that we face. Would you say that the best way to overcome that is to take responsibility for your own stuff, bringing yourself, bringing your A game, stepping up and showing what's possible?
I would say that. And I would also say, don't be afraid to ask for help.
Yes.
We are very independent-minded women. We are givers, but we're not good at receiving.
Oh, I had this conversation less than 3 hours ago with someone else.
Are you serious?
About not always being able to receive. It's so important.
Not being able to receive and say, you know what? This is challenging to me.
Yes.
Or I'm struggling here. You know, what would you do in this situation? Or is there a tangible way that you can actually help me right now? We don't do that. I'm only just learning to do that.
Right.
I am only just in the last few years learning to say, yo, I can't do this alone.
So sisters, step up.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That is something that we really have to get better at.
Yeah.
But it's actually changing an entire cultural mindset of independence for Caribbean women. You know, we are so used to being the caretakers.
Yeah.
You know, and the women that run things, whether it's running a household, running a country, because we've been ahead of the game in terms of women running countries in the Caribbean.
Without a doubt.
This is something that I grew up knowing. This is not new to us.
No,
you know, as the kids say, this is not new to us.
Right.
So when people were all celebrating like Theresa May and Margaret Thatcher, I was like, okay.
Been there, done that.
Been there, done that, been doing it.
Yeah.
So, you know.
Yes.
So, you know, it's like, okay, so then how do we learn to receive? You know, how do we learn to ask for help? How do we even, you know, something as pragmatic as how do we access funding for our businesses or our projects, that other people seem to be able to access with ease,
Right.
What are the inroads to that? Who do I need to speak to? What's the jargon that I need to use in my funding application?
Sure.
These are things that traditionally we don't have because, historically, we weren't really given these opportunities.
Yeah.
When our grandparents came over, they had to share to have homes, much less talk about accessing funding for what? What?
Yeah. You want to start a business?
You want to start a business? Yeah. The bank is like, you can't even have an account. And now you want to own a business and you're asking me for fund. No. Right? So we don't actually... We're quite new. We are new to that aspect. And we don't have, the resources, the connections, the people to champion us in these board meetings, So that's also a very real, challenge for anyone who is Black.
Yeah.
Much less Caribbean women.
Right.
And
so you asked a lot of questions, which, I think they're very valid questions and quality questions. How can we ask for help? How can we reach out for support? And obviously there are those practical steps that you also outlined that we need to know about, especially as, people wanting to come out and do something better. What are the answers to some of those questions? So how do we ask for help? Because I know this is something you said you're learning to do and just kind of coming around to yourself. So someone listening who's like, well, I'm a Caribbean woman or I'm a woman who just feels like I'm on my own here.
Yeah.
I know that I'm capable, but I still feel like some help could be good. What do they need?
I ask for that?
Yeah.
What's helped me, Simone, honestly, is therapy.
Great.
Therapy has been great for me. And again, that's something that our community, we don't speak about. We don't speak about enough. Like, you know what? I've been carrying some stuff from childhood, and I feel like maybe it's one of the reasons that I don't know how to ask for help.
Right.
So maybe it's related, but I am not the professional in terms of, I
Sure.
can't do this for myself.
Yeah.
So I need to find someone who has the skill set to say, okay, let me hear what's going on.
Yeah.
Let me tell you what I feel, what I think, and maybe help you unblock some of these things. Like that's something way out of my self-care expertise.
Sure.
And I recognize that.
Yeah.
So I'm like, all right, let's talk it out.
Yeah.
And in doing so, unraveled so many other things which I didn't even realize.
We're all tangled
We're
up in
all
there.
tangled up in there. And
Yeah.
it's like, oh, the guilt comes from my Catholic upbringing. Just connecting all of these dots. Like, oh, so this is why I don't ask for help. Oh, this is why I feel this way, when I'm struggling and I feel like I'm drowning and overwhelmed and I still won't open up my mouth and articulate myself and say, actually, I'm not okay. And that it's okay to say I'm not okay.
Yeah. And you're saying this. I don't think I've ever heard, certainly this, I've been away from Barbados, like I said, for a very long time, but I've never heard anyone talking about therapy or going to therapy or any of those things, certainly when I was growing up.
Yeah.
I'm sure there are therapists. I'm sure it exists. But as you said, there's almost this kind of taboo around that subject. Where in other places it's so welcomed. Everyone has a therapist.
Yeah.
Everyone's child has a therapist. And I'm not saying that is what we all need, but the fact that you're open and recognizing, I think it's very interesting that you're bringing up a cultural element of, we can do this, we can get through this. Nobody has time for therapy. We've got to work hard. We got to get on with it. And I think it's amazing that you, one, for yourself, coming up in that culture, managed to go, actually, no, I do.
Yeah.
I can see the benefit in this. If you have a problem in your plumbing, you're going to get a plumber.
You get the experts to help,
right? You're going to have some electrical
Yes.
stuff. You're going to get an electrician in.
Absolutely.
So if you've got some things, as you say, not necessarily being your area of expertise, you go to someone whose area of expertise it is. You find a therapist, a coach, or whatever. I know how important that is, obviously, in the work that I do as a coach and sound healer, how many people need the guidance and need someone to kind of point them to look inward sometimes and work these things out. But I think it's crucial that we do need to be able to, say, I need help.
Yeah.
Because at some point in everybody's life, in many times, they will need help. But that doesn't negate their independence.
No, it doesn't.
That doesn't say you're either independent or you're asking for help. You can be independent. You can be strong. You can be
all of it.
All of these beautiful facets that you've spoken about and still receive support.
Yes.
And I do think that one of the things that I would generalize and say for women in general, I will go as far as saying, but certainly I would say Caribbean women, because that's where I can speak from as well, is that we are also very good at coming together as sisters and supporting each other and having conversations. And, you know, women are great at being an ear for another woman.
What?
Right? We know there's someone on the other side of the phone that we can pick up and call and vent to and give our whatever, you know. So that side is really precious.
Yeah, it is.
And I think that therapy is an option as well. But I'm so grateful for the opportunity of having people around me that I know I can just completely just let go and open up to. And, you know, women in general, I salute you. I salute you.
Oh, I definitely have, you know, my go-tos where I'll send a WhatsApp message. This is just a vent.
Yes.
I don't need you to do anything.
Just listen to me.
Listen to me.
That's right.
But, you know, they will actually offer up advice and whatever.
Sure.
But I'm like, you don't have to. I just need to get it off my chest.
Get it off.
I just need to get it off my chest. And that's just as important.
Oh, so important.
Yes.
So important. So you obviously, I mean, you've kind of already touched on some of this, but I'm just going to ask it directly in case there are certain things that you can bring around the obstacles that have come up for you so far on your path. We all have them. And what obstacles have come up, maybe one or two, and what are some of the ways that you've dealt with them?
Gosh, so many obstacles because that's life.
Right. Absolutely.
All the plot twists.
That's right.
And again, you know, I don't know if it's with age or with experience where I'm much more accepting that, okay, there's going to be some major shit that's going to happen at any point in your life. Like, this is just the way it is. That doesn't mean that you're having a horrible life.
Yeah.
You're having a pretty shit moment.
Yeah.
But your entire life, your life in its entirety is not horrible. That's where I am right now. And for me, one of my biggest learnings actually happened last year. And it shed light on so many different aspects of the way that, because I'm only now recognizing that I'm a businesswoman, you know, and what I have is a business, as well as, even though it's community minded and coming from a heart space, it's still a business.
Of course.
And that I need to conduct it as such. And so that's been very slow. That's been a slow learning for me. But I got a very big kick up the ass last year because I approach collaborations as, you know, from a space of, oh my God, I love you. I love your work. Let's create some beautiful things together. That's where I come from. And I've been very lucky in that I have worked with very close friends. So even though we are doing a project, it's because we're friends first. Like I had never, or last year was the first year where people from outside of my friendship circle were approaching me to work with me and wanting to work with me.
Yeah.
But I was still treating them like they were friends.
Right.
Right? So this is where it gets even more interesting now. So, you know, you've come to me and you're like, oh my gosh, Chantal, you know, I love your work and I've been wanting to work with you for years and now the opportunity has arisen. Would you be interested? I'm like, oh my God, of course. I see you. I love your stuff too. Da, 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 da. And it's all beautiful and wonderful. And, you know, things are agreed and da, 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 da. My fatal mistake in a particular situation last year was not to get things in black and white. Right. It was all very WhatsApp conversations, WhatsApp voice notes, you know, there were a few emails, you know, dates, whatever, logistical stuff. But in terms of payment, I made an assumption. Right? Because I feel like in the thread of one of our conversations, this is what was organized and arranged and discussed. So I'm feeling good. Yes. So I go in and I have this. It was an international event, one of two that we did last year, and it went really well. It went really, really well. We raised money for a charity in St. Martin.
Nice.
And it was just like, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. Feeling so great. Like we've done good. You know, we're helping St. Martin to rebuild post-hurricanes. Like, you know, just feeling good. Everything went really well. The weather actually was really nice to us in this place that we were. It's like, wow, okay, cool. And then, we had the discussion the day after the event, and I sat down in that meeting and we're going through the finances, and I'm feeling, oh my gosh,
it's going really well.
And I'm like, oh my God. And then the owner said something, and I was like, what? What did he say? The owner of the venue. And I was like, what did he say? But I'm like, okay, not even worried. Then he got up to get us some coffee and some tea. And then I turned to the person that I collaborated with. I was like, right, so when do we discuss, how much we're both going to get, da-da-da-da-da. And I remember I was given this blank face. I'm like, why is she giving me a blank face? What? Anyway, so again, me still not really, I'm not concerned. I'm not worried because I know what my understanding was, right? Mm-hmm. So I'm not at all phased. And anyway, the owner comes back, da-da-da-da-da-da. Anyway, long story short, I went back to where I was staying for that trip. And I sat down on the bed and I'm like, what the ass? I was like, wait a minute, what? That was not my understanding.
Oh, no.
And I am like, my head is spinning. My heart is racing. I'm like, what the hell? Like, why would I do this if this were not the understanding? Like, it would make no sense for me to be here. What is she saying? Like, what? But I'm like, okay, calm down. Just hold up. You're going back to London in a few days. When you go back, revisit everything. Just, don't go into panic mode just yet.
Right.
Okay? Even though I was like, I'm going into panic mode.
So was it as bad as you not getting paid? Or?
Yes.
Oh, my goodness.
Yes.
All the work, the effort, everything that you put in, right?
Everything. And instead, I ended up having to pay out.
What?
Which I completely... Simone, it was the biggest learning curve. And so for me, I like to be very transparent. So I got back to London, and after revisiting emails and whatever, I was like, oh my gosh, there's nowhere in writing. There's nothing in writing.
Wow.
What the hell? So then I contacted the person. I said, look, we will pay you, as in Island Girls Rock. However, it's not going to be as soon as tomorrow, because there's definitely been a miscommunication or misunderstanding of how this, how everything...
Yeah, because I think if someone came to you and said, hi, I'd love to collaborate with you. So what's going to happen is you're going to do all this work and you're going to have to pay us to do it, by the way. Just want to make sure we're on the same page. You would have said no.
On the same page.
You would have said no. Okay, well, I have to say, I'm so glad you woke up.
Oh, my word.
That was definitely a big learning, because
it gets even better.
Okay, go on.
It gets even better. So remember I said, now I'm used to working within my friend circle. So if I had said to one of my girls, girl, I completely misunderstood, or perhaps I don't know what happened, but this was my understanding of how this was going to work. Mm-hmm. And I know you need to be paid for your work, but it's not going to be this week. In fact, it may not even be next week. Mm-hmm. This is what I can do. I can pay you half next week and pay you the other half next month. I know for a fact that they would have been like, girl, you're a fool, but okay. Right? But this was not my friend. Right? So I'm telling the person this because I want to be upfront. I don't want you to expect to have this money in your account. Oh, no, I'm sorry. I can't do that. My accountant needs all the funds in my account by this date.
Right.
That's what I was greeted with. And it was the first time that I had experienced such a switch in attitude and in tone. Like, it was an immediate switch.
Right.
And I was like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
So I got off the phone call and I'm like, right, how can I rustle up this money for this person? Because they don't want to hear it. So, but I'm like, but you don't have it, Chantal. So what exactly are you going to do? How are you going to rustle this up? You don't have it.
Yeah.
And I'm like, well, I'm just going to have to be truthful again and bear the consequences.
Right.
And the consequences were, she was very upset. She sent me a very lengthy email and said, we are not friends. Mm-hmm. I don't care what's going on in your life. I need to have this money. Da-da-da-da-da-da. This is a business. And I'm like, she's damn right.
Yeah.
It is a business.
Yeah.
And this is a big learning for me.
Yeah. Well, I think it's great that you shared that because it is a big learning, that's for sure.
Yes.
You know, I worked with a lot of people coming out of the corporate world, going into entrepreneurship, and very often and this is stuff that I know through my own coaching trainings and things, is don't work with friends and family.
Right.
Now, I have worked with friends and family. I still have people in my corner who are friends and family. Yeah. But I have to say, because of those learnings, one of the things that was made very clear with everyone I worked with, friend, family or not, was exactly what would happen, how I expect it to go, how they would be rewarded, when, whether it was monetary or exchange, depending on different situations. When you're building a business, this is how it is at the start. You know? And but even in those situations, it was, as you say, a switch. Yeah. I am Simone in work mode right now. And then we'll talk about the friend stuff later. Absolutely. Right now, it's just, this is where it needs to be. And I think creating those boundaries, certainly if you are going to go venture down the route of working with friends or family, need to be in place, even with friends and family. And I'm so glad that you shared that, because I think there are a lot of people out there who, do that, and they have the same experience or similar experiences where, we're all friends here. No, we're not. We're not all friends here.
No, we're not. And as much as it was very painful at the time, because we had started to build a friendship. And I did feel that, I'm going to lose this friendship. Okay. I'm going to lose the potential to have this friendship. And at the time, that was actually bothering me more. And again, that is something that I had to reconcile within myself and say, but Chantal, you're running a business. Yeah. And this person is also running a business.
Sure.
And she doesn't have to be compassionate.
No.
At all. She doesn't owe you compassion. Her understanding was this, right? And there's nothing to prove otherwise.
Yeah.
There's nothing to prove otherwise. So let me tell you guys this. I worked my ass off on some little temporary jobs because I just didn't want her to wait. I think I ended up paying off in 2 months.
Right.
Which by that time she was like, I want nothing ever to do with you ever again. She actually went onto social media and did some very passive aggressive things. And for me, I was like, you know what? I'm not meant to work with you again either. Because what you're doing is showing that you're not a compassionate person. And I don't like this behavior. And I wouldn't want to work with someone who does this. And I was very disappointed. I really was very disappointed. She got her mother involved. It was all very strange. Right. It became bigger and bigger and bigger. And I'm like, wow. Yeah. I've been nothing but transparent with you. Yeah. Because I want to. I don't want to be hiding anything from you. I want you to know this is the deal. Yeah. I'm going to take this. I'm going to take this. I'm going to take responsibility for this. I may not believe that I'm fully responsible for it, but I'm going to take it.
You're fully responsible for your part.
For my part, right.
But you're not responsible for anybody else's part and anyone else's behavior.
Yes.
How you respond to someone else's behavior, surely. Yeah. But certainly you're not responsible for it. And I think that in the end, hopefully, what I wish for this person is that they also then reflect and have their learning, which is, I need to be more articulate and have things on paper and keep things in a very professional way so that there's no miscommunication. Yes. And also, I can be compassionate, even in business. Absolutely. Because I know that they're not your friend. It is business. I agree 100%. But I also think that compassion can still come through those elements. Yes. And not in every case, but certainly let's hope there's been some learning there. But I'm so glad there's some learning for you.
Definitely. There was loads.
That slap in the face.
I was like, okay, girl. Okay, I see you. I see what you have to learn here. Yeah. And I was absolutely fine with it. Yeah. I mean, going through it, it wasn't a nice feeling. Yeah, it wasn't comfortable. I lost nights of sleep, because I'm very much, I do soak it in. And I hate, one of my things that I'm working on in my therapy is I tend not to want to disappoint anyone. I don't like feeling like I've let someone down. And so, in my therapy, I'm coming to realize that I will let people down sometimes. Yeah. That's just how it works.
You might let them down a lot, but you know why?
Why?
Because you're not responsible for their stuff.
There we go. See, I'm getting a session now.
Right. You're only responsible for yours,
yes,
your actions, your intentions,
yes,
and where you come from. So if you're doing something that you know is not about, you know in yourself, it's
yes,
not about hurting the other person, it's not about offending, it's not about whatever those words that you might want to use are. It doesn't matter. But as long as that's not what it's about, then how it is taken is down to the individual. And I say that, I say this, for example, I would say the same exact thing in the same exact way to my children.
Yes.
And one would take it like I haven't said a word, it's fine, whatever's cool, and the other one will be upset.
Yes.
Is it that I did something wrong?
True.
No. I said one thing and it was taken how it was taken from wherever they were in that moment, in that space.
Yes.
We are grown-up children.
Yes, we are.
Right? And so
I know this.
It's the same thing. It's the same thing. So I like to think that we don't need to give power to people. Mm-hmm. You know, we don't need to give away our power, I should say.
Yeah.
And, you know, whatever you decide to do and however you decide to do it, you know where you're coming from. You know the place that you're coming from. And as you said, you know, you took responsibility for your actions and the consequences of how things unfolded. We also have to do that.
Yes.
But more so than not, we have to recognize, as I said way before, when it's our stuff and when it's someone else's.
True.
And I think that lesson for me, being, you know, taught that very young, has saved me a lot of heartbreak, a lot of trauma,
oh my goodness,
a lot of potentially very devastating situations, because I was able to let it go and go, oh, wait, hey, that's not mine. Okay. I'm off.
I'm gone.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
And walking away from that, Simone, walking away from that situation and reflecting on it, because I like to reflect on when I'm being handed lessons. And I reflected afterwards and I'm like, you know what though? Because at the time I was like, oh, it's all you, Shan. It's all you. You know, you did this. You didn't do that. You should have done this. You should have done that. And I was taking all of it. Like all of the responsibility, all of it.
Right.
You know, because it's like, oh, and here you are now. You have to pay out.
Yeah.
You know, where are you going to find this? All.
Yeah.
But then walking away from it, I reflected by looking at some of the emails that were sent to me during the time and how I responded. And then I actually remember there was a cutoff point for me where I put up a very clear boundary and made the active decision to not respond to anything else.
Yeah.
I did. I didn't respond to WhatsApp messages. I didn't respond to social media inboxes. I didn't respond to emails.
Yeah.
I had stated my case. I had let her know. It was
done. It was over.
And it was done.
Yeah.
And the minute I did that, I was like, moving on.
Yeah. Because if you fan the flame, it's going to shine. It's going to get brighter. You're going to bring the fire up. And, you know, entering into conversations that are over, you know, you can decide to do that as well. But well done on just knowing where to draw the line. Hard lesson for sure, but you've learned.
Absolutely.
And now,
and it was wonderful.
You know, in sharing this story, let's hope that people will take the nuggets. And,
I hope so, guys.
You know, either not work with family, either not work with family or friends, or have really clear boundaries and things in place.
Even when you think you're being pedantic,
right?
Just do it.
Exactly.
Get it in black and white.
Exactly. So you're doing so many good things. The projects that you're bringing to life, they're amazing. And when I think about, you know, what I knew of you before and where you are now, you've taken some massive steps in moving forward, which is really wonderful to witness.
Thank you.
So if you fast forward 3 years, where do you see yourself and your projects? Where do you see all of that?
3 years from now, I see us in the 3rd year anniversary of our global mentorship program. So that's something that we're launching this year, and
brilliant.
Very excited about it. Many more international events, because Caribbean women are everywhere.
Yeah.
So as much as we're based here in the UK and, you know, much more regional events, so more in the Caribbean, you know, we want to be there.
Yeah.
So definitely like an ongoing program of workshops and events in the Caribbean and other countries. And really, on a personal level, how does my personal life tie into Island Girls Rock in 3 years? I would love to be based in the UK with a home, which is also a hub, and a hub for women to come and run workshops.
Nice.
And pick up some good food, some juices maybe. you know, and
Sounds
just
great.
a really beautiful space and a big space to do that for dancers to practice and have a studio, yoga, whatever. I'd love to do that with a collective of women because I believe in the power of the collective. And definitely, you know, I do believe in working in a solitary manner because there's some peace that I actually get from that. But I love also working collaboratively because there's a power in that too.
Absolutely.
So 3 years from now, much more synergy between my personal and my business life.
Yeah.
I believe there's different ways to run a business and there's no, you know, there's mistakes that all businesses make, but I don't think that one particular mode is the only way to run a business.
Of course.
And I do want to hold on to elements of doing so from a humanistic point of view, where absolutely I have to make money because I have to eat.
Yeah.
I need to have a roof over my head, you know, the basics.
Yep.
And I want to be able to do nice things too. I want to be able to, at any given moment, buy a ticket to go home to Nevis to see my family. I don't want to only do that when there's an emergency.
No.
You know, so my aim is to also be much more financial ease into my life to facilitate that. Because I think money is a wonderful, beautiful thing that brings ease in many aspects of your life. And I know for a fact that one of my blocks that I'm working on is that financial flow. So it's something that I'm trying to unravel, you know, what my story is and my relationship is with money, why it comes and then it goes. It comes and then it goes. I would like more consistency.
that is the nature of money.
Yes.
It will come and go for everyone, but it doesn't have to deplete.
Yes, that's
right.
it.
We you know, energy. I mean, currency or money is energy.
It
and energy is flowing, right? And so it's going to always flow. But I do think we all have our money stories and things that will either serve us or not serve us. And I think it's great that you recognize that and can look into, you know, what yours is and remove those blocks so that you can be in a place where, you know, you're not just living and having the basics, because that's what we all need, but being able to thrive and have the quality of life that you want, because it also then offers you an opportunity to help others in a much bigger way.
And that's the beauty of money. Simone, it's so strange because I had this conversation again with another friend just last week where I know that me having, you know, the financial goals that I do is not just for myself. It's actually for my community because I want to be able to do certain things for them.
Yeah.
And money facilitates that.
Oh, without a doubt.
So,
yeah, without a doubt. Here's to making more money.
Yes.
So if you could give one piece of advice to aspiring creatives, what would that be?
I know it sounds really cliched. Oh my goodness. But honestly, just do you. Do you, you know, don't be concerned. It's great to be aware of what everyone else is doing. You know, there are people that will inspire you by the work that they're putting out. Absolutely, you know, but don't be afraid to just be yourself.
Yeah.
Because when you're absolutely within yourself and doing it from a really genuine and authentic place, it's easier.
Yeah.
It's easier. And why would you not want things to be more ease-filled? You know, you don't have to struggle. I don't like struggle. I do not like struggling.
I think I remember you saying you like to be happy. That you want to enable joy.
I am not a struggle girl. Right. I don't want to be struggling. No. I don't like that.
No.
I don't like that space. And you know, there's this thing where, it's always a struggle in the beginning. Maybe I don't like, it's challenging and it's okay to expect that there will be challenges.
Without a doubt.
But I don't think we should have the expectation that there should be struggling and struggle. They're two very different things.
Nuance is there,
yeah,
that's
the nuance
for sure.
is there.
Yeah.
But the thing that as I said, that I would say to any creative, just be yourself.
Yeah.
Be your beautiful self. There's no other you.
Yeah.
There may be people producing work that's similar to yours, but it's still not yours.
Yeah. And I completely agree. A lot of the work that I do helping people to kind of come back home to self and to connect with their essence and authenticity and you know, in doing so, express their gifts out into the world.
Yeah.
It really is about recognizing that while we're all connected and while there is, you know, this, you know, beautiful energy that runs through us all, we are still having our uniqueness, our unique
Absolutely.
sound print, our unique way of expression. And I do believe personally that we all come with gifts. And that gift is yours and yours alone. And how you express it and how you make that manifest in the world is your choice.
Yep.
And nothing makes me happier to see people, such as yourself, taking a spark and a seed and doing such beautiful things out in the community.
Thank you.
So I'm really pleased to, have you speak from a place from your heart, and come from that place where a lot of people can learn from your mistakes, learn from things that you've gone through and how to grow, but also just to how Caribbean women can uplift each other and share their stories and, educate and inform the world of us.
Yeah.
Which I think is really, really beautiful. So I want to acknowledge you for that and say how grateful I am. And just to let everyone know, you can connect and learn more about Chantal and her work. Just head on over to islandgirlsrock.com, and you can also find her splashed across all social media platforms, which I will make sure the links are with this episode. So Chantal, thank you again for joining me, taking
Thanks
the time out of your day
Simone.
and sharing
Thank
all of
you.
that. And I have one final question for you. Yes. And that is, what is your soulful sound to the world? That self-prayer or desire that you wish upon the world?
What do I wish upon the world? To be open to the joy. That's honestly my prayer for the world. We know right now, especially globally, we are going through a lot of shit. We're experiencing a whole heap of things from all different angles. Please remain open to the joy, because it's there.
Yes.
It's right there.
That is beautiful.
And that's it.
What a beautiful note to end on. Thank you so much again for coming in, Chantal. I really appreciate you.
Thank you. I appreciate you, Simone.
I feel
100%.
it. Thank you. And I'm really excited what's to come next. Please do let me know how I can support
Yes. Oh,
on
absolutely.
your journey.
Oh, you're on our radar.
You
Trust
did
me.
say that, you're supposed to be open to receiving. So
Yes.
please let me know in whatever way I can support
Yes.
you. But much love to you. And I wish you all the best with your continued success. All right. Thanks so much for tuning in. I hope you've enjoyed this episode. Please feel free to share it with your friends and remember to subscribe. From my heart to yours, sending you love, healing, and sound wherever you are.